Hi, I'm Seamless, and today it's time for a new how to bass tutorial. And today I'm going to show you how to make this sound. Just triggering notes. I didn't have any MIDI going on for this one because I was using a keyboard while I was making it. So, fun sound with this one. The big super cool thing about this thing is that I discovered that you can automate the Unison indexing that Serum has, which is super cool. This is I'm not really sure how long this was always possible, but I'm pretty sure it's from the beginning, and I'm a little upset that I missed this all the way until now. This is something other plugins can do, sort of like very modern plugins can do, and that's exciting. Other things that are exciting, I discovered that there's a modulation limit. I didn't know that you straight up there's only so many mixer, or rather matrix slots to be had. I went ham on moving things around, and there was a purpose for all of these, and it was really fun, and I'll explain them all. This particular video is brought to you today by a brand new sponsor to the channel who's given me an affiliate link and a half off code to give to you for their stuff. This is Ditto Music. It is one of those auto labels that lets you independently release your stuff to all of the big regular output for like music and things. Spotify, iTunes, Deezer. I don't know what that is, but that's there. Tidal. I do know what that is, but that's there. So that's like their most incredibly basic service that they offer, but they also do other things. They interact with the PROs, the performance rights organizations, ASCAP, BMI, GEMA, those types of organizations. They do that kind of thing for you. They also, if you want to pay for the service all extra, which is also not very expensive, the pricing you'll see for their website is based per year. So yay. What else was I gonna say? Oh yeah, they enter your stuff, if you want to pay for it, into libraries that are picked up by people who do promo channels and things. So that's some promotion for you. And also they have a service that puts the same thing but into things that are picked up for rights usage into TV shows and video games and movies and things. So that's special. I've never seen that in a service like that before. Also of note, they let you split collaborators per track. So if you have a feature of an artist on there, you just want to split the royalties, you can just do that from in there, and then not have to worry about doing that for yourself if you don't want to. So basically, all of the things that labels can do, but automatic and more or less under your control. So that's kind of cool. That's them sponsoring this video. Cool. In the description of this video, those links. Also, this Serum preset is in there too. So let's talk about how this works. To show this off, let's look at a naked one. I don't have it in here yet because my Discord got hacked the other day and started spamming a whole bunch of NFT nonsense. If you ever see me link you something that says something about NFTs and I ask you to do something about that, I'm hacked. That's not me. I don't interact with any of that. I don't. So, no. That was bad. It was bad because I had lax security and basically let that crap happen to me. And that's not something that's good. You shouldn't do that. Don't do that. Moral of the story is that I reformatted everything, reinstalled everything, so now I'm doing that. So that's a lot of fun. What I'm looking for now is wherever the hell I installed Serum. There it is. I haven't done the whole favoriting images kind of business. So, yay. Now, here's what you do. You go and get any given table. I got one of these FME ones because it has a ringy texture to it that you can follow. That kind of squeaky change in the high end is something that is very distinct, so that when you hear the layers of difference, you can still tell that they're there because the difference is so stark. What I mean by that is this. Let's get 2 or 3 voices going. Actually, let's do this. Let's get 4 voices going. Kill the detune, kill the phase randomness, start at the beginning. Blend good. Even. Alright, so this is just four of the same voices happening at once. We're gonna come in here. That's the warp not doing anything. Never mind. There it is. It's also automatically spread pan, but I didn't mess with that later. Now that top end that was real sharpened has been blurred by basically everything we know that causes blur to happen, but now we're doing it as a wavetable version instead of something like a delay or a reverb that's causing the same action to be repeated next to itself and scanned through. We're just doing that as a thing in the wavetable. So up here along this that it can do, it can also do this for the warp thing, which is what I accidentally moved around first. You saw that it also goes negative. It just doesn't forward and backwards kind of thing. And what I did there was I put a remap on, at first, a real basic one. The one that's on here now is somewhat different, but that's because I'd made those choices after I made a lot of other post choices to get there. But to get there from here, whenever I'm experimenting with remap, that's what I try to remember to do first, is to turn this on so I can see what's happening to the waveform while I'm messing with it, along with hearing, because then it helps me to understand the relationship better when I'm trying to learn how the tool works, which I'm still doing because this is a complicated tool. Different enough that if I were to have the settings between all 4 points, that you can tell that was happening, that there'd be a difference, which it's already doing. So around here is when I start putting on the LFO to do just regular, just moving things around. And you saw when I was playing the notes here that I was doing the kind of Reese thing with the lower notes or speed and the higher notes faster. A lot louder than this guy is. Well, that happens because I have no tracking linked onto the LFO here. But what's fun is normally when I do that, I turn off the BPM syncing and I make it more freewheeling like a regular Reese is. But if you just keep the timing on, it just keeps it even. And to be honest, I should have been doing that from the whole time forever. Because as cool as like the Reesing mechanic is, in the sound design of it all, historically especially, what you would normally do is just record it out and time it to be in time, to be rhythmically relevant, or cut it around to make it do that. Because in just playing the thing freely, it would just not be in time. Except for the part where you started because you're playing a note. So just do this. This is like, I'm fine with this. You gotta find your ranges. There you go, something like that. I turned on triplets, but like, whatever, it's up to you there at that point. And then we can start attaching secondary nonsense. So to continue on the chain of making something crazy, utilizing just additional like indexing, I also took part to engage like, okay, all of this now also be. But normally I make one of these silent so that the modulator is just modulating and the output is just the output. But I wanted to hear the calamity of them both together, so they are. And that just meant that when I just picked that guy, I went after anything that sounded like high frequency and busted. And could be most anything you want, really. Like here, this is a good one. And then just the levels around, do some FM from A, and that's also something that gets us the warp mode change. But we also have to engage Unison for that to do anything. So I did this first. I forgot to kind of make the detune differencing, because over here I just engaged them all so that the only difference in the Unison that you could hear is from the stuff we set up here. But in this original guy, I left it on a little bit, and so the sound became involved in having that difference. And then also involving the LFO with just changing shapes. I feel pretty good. This guy ended up getting inverted. You can see how the shape kind of fits upside down into here, and I just by hand and by ear end up in this position. It happens. Just this is your motion. Live with it or mess with it until it's livable. Livable. Yeah. Woo! So what should be apparent at this stage, because this is on the surface, this looks like a pretty regular Serum 2 oscillator together with some process modulating, right? But it has this extra tightness of tone that it doesn't normally have because of a spreading aspect that this creates. we're not done yet, because remember before I said this can be modulated. Now, if I play the notes around, oops, no, not oops. I thought this was this guy again. You see how it's getting there, right? So, what the heck was I just about to talk about? Oh yeah, so from here, if you play it, and it has that kind of like, it talks at higher pitches, but not at the right rate. The right rate being anything other than it sounds like a sample. A sample just sounding the same harmonic structure all the way up and down the thing. And this kind of has that vibe. And the way that you want to fix that is you could just use note tracking on a lot of things. But one of the things I'm going to use here is to sound this. It actually barely matters what the change is or what direction the change is in, as long as it just is a change. Ooh, it's getting good. Here's how you can tell it's getting good. When I'm playing that low note down there. Incredibly high frequency response, despite the fact that we're not really, like, the FM is turning off most of the time. So it's not, I mean, I think I'm going up pretty high on the warp there. And I'm going down. Never mind. Moral of that story is that because of the interaction of the different voices is so tightly like together, like when I keep saying whenever I use Harmor, it's resolving a very high frequency action that would normally be a kind of fine detail that'd be really hard to get out of just one, like, generative result. Yep, and continued more with just using the mod also on these things. That's pretty fun. I like that. I like where that's going. I didn't mean to turn this into make it a new one from scratch kind of thing, but this is all still the same tech that I used to make this to get here. Something that's different than this one that happened in this guy is that there got to be some pitch calamity that I decided to be clever, kind of, and try and fix by putting the motion also on the phase, the whole ass core phase itself. And it's still kind of doing it, but in a way that I am fine with. So, neat. And after this, I engaged this really specific choice in filtering because I got a system that was kind of like this. And then it had a texture that I liked and I wanted to preserve, but I still wanted the impact of having just like a filter on doing this, right? That's right. See the inversion happen there? So I want that, but I want that without the devastation the filter causes the phase, like, business. Oh, that's cool as heck. Oh, what is that view? What is that? Is that input and output? Or is that phase? Is that phase rotation? Or is that the two signals? Oh, one of the guys is not. Yeah. So this is actually something else that happened. You see how there's the different ones that are in there too. This is another thing that I forgot. That, oh yeah, they're not all by default both going into the filter. And I got this kind of airy result where the main thing that has the main power is being filtered, but the other thing isn't. But still moving around and being messed with by the other guy enough, not the filtered version, that it feels related enough that it feels like it's just the high frequency fuzz of what's happening. So that's almost good, except for the phase devastation. And we're going to fix that with the multi-filter, which, ba-bam. The way that this helps is that you just don't get a really wide response going on with the cutoff, but you get a really wide response on the morph. This gives you the impression of a very large spectral change, despite the fact that you're actually making a very small phase adjustment, because the phase adjustment is just the same on all three filters, but then you're just crossfading between the three filters. It's like what a wavetable is, but a very small one than for filters. I'm not going to put one on res on this. I think I put one here. Nope, did that. Cool. So after this, we go into doing more inside effects and whatnot. Doing more inside effects and whatnot. I'm just so professional, aren't I? All right. First step, distortion. The one that I ended up using, this diode thing. That was a result of feeling results. So that I tried a lot before I got there. I tried first the side shaping one, and it was almost sounded right, and you can kind of tell why it almost sounded right shape wise. Eek. Gonna turn it the hell down now. Ooh, too burny in that one direction. And it's not as though I put together that this would be the solution to that. I'm just noting now visually that this is why that's the solution to that. The next thing I tried was this one. And first, I definitely turned it down before I tried doing that, because wow. And I had nothing to note about this in reference to that, other than just to say that, like, I liked the tone, but it was too quiet, and also broke it too hard, too devastating. So then these happened. And then this one. And I got that result right there, that textural result, where there's just a little bit of burn and like this strange like hollow response. That's important. These choices actually were things I made after I put this filter on. I put the filter on first, and this was something I knew I was going to do. This business is basically to prep it for its response to go into what would be the reverb filter. I'm actually not sure if I needed to. Yep, basically like that. Excuse me. So now with this on here, doing this like this, and then this drive thing is also a choice I made yet again as a result of something that was on after the fact. There's a lot of that in a lot of my choices. I'm really not sure what the plan was here. Yep, I see what the plan was there. Okay, so I needed the distortion to be doing its distorty thing at the low end of the macro. So when it was down here during the darker bits, I needed it to do the rounder, sort of squarey deal. And then I needed the air to come through so that it would interact with this air and be even more airy. And by air coming through, what I mean is that the harmonic structure wouldn't be so overly dominated by what the lower harmonics were. They'd be more interested in interacting with some of the higher results of this. Blech. Then the compressor. And here's where I decided to make the drive come into play. So I decided to keep it with just one band. And doing this is usually when you want the devastation of what happens when you just slam a bunch of uncommon frequency content together inside the same signal processor. As you see there, it's really kind of quiet, so... So around here is when I start making choices with the note tracking, because on the macro side of things, moving stuff is just move whatever sounds cool. But then you hear me when I'm doing this, I'm testing octaves. What I'm doing there is whatever choice I make, I want to see what happens when I experience it at a multiplied harmonic state, playing at higher octaves, different notes. Harmonic ratio, I guess, is the technical term. It's the technical term for what I said. And doing that lets me be like, okay, wow, that process actually burns up a little too hard up there, or not too hard, or not hard enough, that kind of thing. And that's where we use note tracking to solve for stuff. A lot of that, there's a lot of filter choices that are like that, like on the really, really high guys. I just went real careful on this. But mostly what happened was I would do a track on this. And here it get kind of blurred out on the top end. And what I wanted was it to not get blurred out on any of the end, but there's still to be a difference. So I had to figure out what the really kind of nice range of, you see in the real result, how very tiny that range was. And we get that result, that pushy is a result of how loud we're pushing this drive into the compressor. So how fast this is and how hard it gets pushed will determine overall that result. That particular reverb is coming from the filter, the reverb filter, because it actually is an actual reverb engine the way that those work. And so leaving the tail up on the release time is like leaving the decay signal up a bit. You can act like it is anyway. So after this, I decided to like, because in a real version of this sound, I would not care so much about to do this stage inside Serum. I would be doing this on an external like sound with the reinforced subs, so that I do that in my track. That's how I do those. But just in case, just to show that how it feels when it is reinforced, I decided to be like, cool, do this, cool, do that, and then link level up here. But be a bit weird, so that actually comes down and you hear it up when it's dark. So on the low end here, the sub's coming up more. Now on the other guy, I actually came up a little bit on the top end. I came back down, but it's slightly pushed up a bit. And on this one, it's a little harsh, so I'm gonna. And I like the low end to be having actually some of the highs on this. I call it the low end. What I mean by the low end is the low end of the macro. Low end macro, high end macro, 0, 100. And the 0 end, I like to the highs. On the highs, I don't. So, bam. I think I did that right. Whatever. That was just a good example. That was just a good example for this one. I didn't have to do that in this one. Yeah. So that's how much fun I have with this one. One last fun, neat step with this was that I did come in here and I did mess with some of these curves. And you want to do that on some of the big main guys. The first one I tried, literally the first one I tested just to see if I cared, was to do this on the main cutoff and morph macros for the filter, which are just labeled. Boop. Boop. Fill cutoff and fill variation. Hey, look at the shape come through. Right, just to see if there's a weighting on where the macro goes, if it pushes it more towards the way you like better, because sometimes it does. And this is a fun way of like, this seems like just actually a really not complicated or even in-depth way to maneuver this, because on other plugins like Vital, you can go full FL about it and just draw the transfer curve per one of these dudes. However, with just a main like motion control and just this kind of change, that's enough most of the time to get very intricate design change. I like messing with this. I like it's a good time. So yes, that's Unison index mapping and something that's not an FL plugin. Anyway, I guess actually both of these, why not? Both of these presets will be available to download in the description of this video. I'm going to save them just as Serum presets, so you can just use them wherever. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all of that good stuff. And check out Ditto Music if you're into independently releasing your music. And if you have any questions about that, also feel free to ask me. And as usual, have a nice day. Hitting the button. Hitting OK.